When the first hybrid cars rolled onto dealership lots in the early 2000s, they promised to change everything. This was supposed to be the moment gasoline's dominance would finally be challenged. Toyota's Prius became an instant celebrity. Hollywood stars flashed their green credentials by showing off their hybrids on red carpets, and major automakers scrambled to roll out their own fuel-sipping models. It seemed like the future had arrived, but behind the hype, behind the marketing buzzwords and tax incentives, something else was happening. A slow, quiet disaster that most car buyers and even industry insiders didn't fully see until years later. The 2000s hybrid boom wasn't the game changer it was supposed to be. In fact, in many ways, it left the auto industry confused, car owners disappointed, and billions of dollars wasted on cars that failed to deliver their revolutionary promise. Let's take a real, honest look at why the 2000s hybrid trend was one of the most overhyped and underperforming automotive movements of the last 30 years. The Prius phenomenon that started it all when Toyota released the first generation Prius in Japan in 1997 and globally in the early 2000s, the industry gasped. Here was a compact, quiet, futuristic car with a gasoline, electric drivetrain that allowed for unheard of fuel efficiency numbers. The second generation Prius, introduced in 2003, made the car an icon, especially in the United States. It wasn't just about gas mileage. The Prius became a symbol. Environmentalists, tech enthusiasts, and even movie stars flocked to buy one. Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz, and other A-listers drove them proudly to awards shows as if to tell the world, "I care about the planet." Toyota's gamble paid off, and the Prius sold millions. But here's the truth: the Prius was the exception, not the rule. Other automakers quickly tried to catch the hybrid wave, and most failed miserably. The copycats that nobody wanted. What did Ford, GM, Chrysler, Honda, and Nissan do when Prius sales skyrocketed? They scrambled to slap hybrid badges on almost anything they could. Ford's Escape Hybrid was early to market and did fairly well in urban fleet sales, but that was about the limit of success. GM and Chrysler were far less lucky. Remember the Chevrolet Tahoe hybrid? The massive SUV that promised to save fuel with its hybrid system. In reality, the Tahoe hybrid only offered marginal mileage improvements at a massive price premium. Buyers laughed it off. It was the wrong solution for the wrong market. Chrysler did the same with its Dodge Durango hybrid, an even bigger flop. Why would buyers spend more for a hybrid version of a gas-guzzling SUV when they could just buy a smaller, more efficient vehicle? Worse still, the satellite models, like hybrid versions of already fuel-efficient cars, didn't make sense. Honda's Civic Hybrid and Insight competed directly with the cheaper, simpler gas Civics that often performed just as well in real-world driving. Many buyers found no reason to pay the hybrid premium, especially when gas prices dropped post-2008. Unrealistic fuel economy claims. One of the biggest disasters of the hybrid era was the huge gap between EPA fuel economy estimates and real-world results. Advertised MPG figures for hybrids in the 2000s were laughably high compared to what drivers actually experienced. For example, the 2004 Prius claimed over 60 miles per gallon in the city, but most owners struggled to get 45 mpg, sometimes less. Hybrids like the Honda Accord Hybrid made even bigger mistakes, promising great mileage but, in practice, delivering no significant improvement over the conventional V6 Accord. The public started to notice. Auto magazines, newspapers, and online forums filled with angry owners asking why their $5,000 hybrid upgrade was giving them only a 2 or 3 mpg boost over the base model. Some drivers accused automakers of fraud. Lawsuits were even filed in the US claiming deceptive advertising. The damage to consumer trust was real. The maintenance nightmare no one warned you about hybrid cars in the 2000s also came with an ugly secret: high repair costs. The battery packs, crucial to the hybrid system, were expensive and often needed replacement after 100 to 150,000 miles. For many owners, this was the financial tipping point. Replacing a hybrid battery could cost $3,000 to $1,000 or more on a car that might only be worth $6,000 by the time the battery died. For bargain-focused buyers looking to save money on fuel, this was a disaster. You might save $500 on gas in 5 years, only to lose $4,000 on a battery. Many hybrid owners quietly dumped their cars at used lots rather than pay the repair bill. Even worse, independent mechanics couldn't easily service these cars, pushing owners toward costly dealership repairs. Many used hybrids simply sat unsold. No one wanted a 10-year-old Prius or Escape Hybrid with a dying battery and no warranty. The hybrid SUVs that made no sense. Arguably the dumbest moment of the 2000s hybrid trend was the launch of full-size hybrid SUVs and trucks. In a bid to make hybrids appeal to American buyers who love big vehicles, automakers built things like the Chevrolet Silverado Hybrid and the Cadillac Escalade Hybrid. hybrid. These monstrosities weighed thousands of pounds, burned fuel like crazy, and delivered a measly 1 to 3 mpg improvement over their gas counterparts. Worse, they cost $5,000 to $10,000 more to buy new. The market laughed them off. Sales were dismal. Dealerships could barely give them away. GM, Ford, and Chrysler spent millions developing these pointless hybrids, money they badly needed elsewhere. Chrysler in particular faced bankruptcy just a few years later. The resale value disaster. Car buyers also learned a brutal truth. In the late 2000s, used hybrids didn't hold their value well. Part of this was fear. People didn't trust 7- or 8-year-old battery packs. Part was economics. Once gas prices dropped after the 2008 financial crash, no one cared about saving fuel anymore. Gas-guzzling SUVs made a comeback. Cheap gas-mana hybrids lost their magic. This crushed the resale value of cars like the first-generation Honda Insight, the Saturn Vue hybrid, and even the Ford Escape hybrid. Buyers avoided them like the plague. The entire used car market treated hybrids like radioactive waste. The tax credit trap. During the early 2000s, governments offered generous tax credits for hybrid buyers. In the US, you could get up to $3,400 off your taxes for buying certain models. But when these credits expired or phased out after automakers hit sales caps, sales collapsed. For example, when Toyota and Honda lost their federal credits after selling too many hybrids, demand for models like the Camry hybrid dropped sharply. Buyers simply didn't see the point in paying a premium price with no tax break. The hybrid boom turned into a hybrid bust. Automakers learned the wrong lessons. The saddest part, even the automakers themselves misunderstood what the hybrid disaster meant. GM doubled down on mild hybrid tech that barely worked. Honda wasted years developing integrated motor assist, a system less efficient than Toyota's tech. Billions were burned on research that didn't make a dent in overall fuel economy standards or sales figures. Meanwhile, diesel engines in Europe and later, pure electric cars made hybrids look like half measures. By 2010, Tesla's Roadster and Nissan's Leaf showed that full electrics were the real future. The hybrid bubble had popped. The Prius alone survived. The only real winner of the 2000s hybrid experiment was Toyota. The Prius was the right car at the right time. It built an unmatched brand identity and sold millions worldwide. But even Toyota learned that hybrids couldn't save everything. The Camry hybrid and Highlander hybrid sold in small numbers. The larger Lexus hybrids flopped. Toyota's dominance didn't change the fact that the hybrid market as a whole never took off the way experts predicted. By 2010, automakers were already shifting resources to plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles, quietly acknowledging that the 2000s hybrid rush had failed to reshape the industry. The hybrid graveyard. What happened to the 2000s hybrid cars? Most are gone, scrapped, recycled, or sitting in junkyards. The Saturn Vue hybrid, the Chevrolet Malibu hybrid, the Dodge Durango hybrid, all dead. Ford's early hybrids faded into obscurity. Honda's Civic hybrid and Accord hybrid lost sales to their simpler gas cousins. Even second-generation Priuses are now cheap used cars, often facing expensive battery replacements. Only a few rare models remain collectible curiosities. Early insights, maybe, but the rest are forgotten relics of a trend that fizzled out before it truly ignited. The big lesson: technology alone isn't enough. What killed the 2000s hybrid boom? It wasn't a technology failure. Most hybrids worked well enough. It was bad economics, worse marketing, and poor timing. Gas prices fell, tax breaks vanished. Buyers didn't want the complexity or cost. Automakers misread the room. The industry moved on. Today, hybrid technology survives, not as a miracle solution, but as a small piece of the bigger puzzle. Plug-in hybrids like the Toyota RAV4 Prime or Jeep Wrangler Forks make more sense. Full electric cars are now the real revolution. But the memory of the 2000s hybrid disaster remains. A reminder that hype can't change reality. The great misfire of the green revolution. In the end, the 2000s hybrid craze was a car industry bubble, born from fear of rising oil prices and environmental panic, bursting when reality and economics came crashing back. Automakers wasted billions chasing a half solution. Consumers bought cars they didn't fully understand, and the environment, it barely noticed. What could have been the first great clean car revolution became a strange detour, leading us not to a greener world, but to a scrapyard full of forgotten technology. The hybrids of the 2000s promised to save the planet. In the end, they couldn't even save themselves.